To American Tesol Presents Free Friday Webinars. And every Friday, we have a free webinar so you can invite your friends to come along and we learn about different topics specifically related to English language teaching and often with technology. I'm Shelley Terrell and I'm going to talk to you today about Facebook and how Facebook is a great tool for English language teaching. So I have paused this, so maybe the sound will get better now that we're not having the video. So that should make the sound a bit better. I'm really hoping so. Okay, so I want to tell you today, how many of you are on Facebook currently? Hopefully all of you are on Facebook. It's really easy to set up an account. And does anybody know what this number means? 700 million? Can anyone guess what that means? Hi, Ola. Yes, exactly, Nora. Very good. There are currently 700 million users of Facebook as of 2011 now. At the beginning of the year, there was about 500 million, and they're worldwide. So what happens is that this happens to be the most active social network out there. And because it's the most active, it's one of the greatest tools, information and communication technology tools to use with students, because most of them will actually be there. And there's a lot of features that Facebook now has that actually makes it okay for students. Before, it wasn't like that. But now you can do different things, and we'll talk about that today. But it's also great for professional development, because what happens is then you're able to connect with other educators. And Ming Hung did bring up a really good point. He says that you're not able to log in China, and that is true. I will share with you my Facebook page later, and I encourage you to share yours as well. And today we're going to talk about how you can use Facebook for professional development if you have your own organization, for yourself, for personal use, with your students, or if you want to, by any chance, just kind of start something on your own just because you want a group of teachers together, so you can do that as well. Facebook, and Ola brings up a very good point. She says it's more personal, and that's true. But one of the things is with Facebook is that you have to add people, and because you have to add people, then that means that you can have different types of privacy settings. So one of the basics when you're starting a profile, first of all, you have to have a Facebook profile to see things on Facebook. So for example, I can give you my Facebook address, and it's open to everyone. It's public, but there are certain things you won't be able to see if you don't have a Facebook account, because that's the way the settings are. So a lot of times people will say, well, I can't see when you, I always make a note of each of these webinars that takes place on Facebook. But unless you're logged into Facebook, you won't be able to see this note. So first thing is, when you set up an account, you want to make sure you have a picture, and you can see me with my little pug. And one of the reasons I have my pug is because Facebook is personal and people want to know things about you. So I do share a lot of things with my pug in it, and people respond to that quite well. Check your privacy settings. Make sure whatever you don't want to share with your students, for example, if you plan on using this with students, then make sure you categorize them. Put them on a list that says students. Put things on a list that say family. Put things on a list that say friends. And this way, whatever you show is exactly what ends up being shown to them. That's what they're able to see. So I think it's really important that you categorize people in different groups. I'm so sorry about the sometimes the connections from the countries will make it to where it's difficult to hear the sound. And the next thing you want to do, if you want to increase the number of people that you have on Facebook or increase the amount of participation from your friends, and you want the communication to come about, which is really important because it is, after all, a language tool, then one of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure that you participate as well. When you begin, and what are ways that you can participate in Facebook? Can anybody name any ways? So what are ways that you participate on Facebook? I'll type that in the chat box. Okay, very good. Nora says groups. You participate with family and friends. And how do you communicate with them? Exactly. Okay, so Tatiana said comments, putting up comments. Maybe you might share a resource. Tagging. Ola says tagging people. Exactly. Ingrid says status updates. Minghang says sending messages. Yes, a lot of times you can even do things like poke. And yes, Tatiana said the keyword, liking things. When you like things, it's a really simple, quick way to be able to participate on Facebook. And one of the good things about Facebook is there's an app for it on your mobile device, on most smartphones. So like your Android, your BlackBerry, and your iPhone will all have ways that you can participate in Facebook. So after you set up your profile, the next thing you want to do is you want to be able to see what pages and groups you already follow. Most likely you already follow some pages and groups. And most likely you can find them if you start typing in the search box, just like I have it right here. I'll put the green arrow. And when you type in there, you can find many of the groups that way. So some of the groups and pages that I list today, you can type it in the search box and you'll find it that way. Especially, this is the easiest way to do it because a lot of people don't realize you can get your own customized URL even in your profile. So I'll show you that later, how to do your own customized URL. But for example, if you go to facebook.com, Shelly Terrell, then you'll come to my page. This is a custom URL. It's not going to be like this big number or letters. And the way you do that is you go to your settings, and then that's where you get to choose it. You can do this for a Facebook page as well, and groups. So for example, one of the companies that I work for is the consultancy. And so our Facebook group URL is facebook.com, the consultancy. Now, you have to have 30 people like your page, 30 people in your group, or 30 people on your profile in order to set your URL. Another thing is, so after you set up your profile, I'm going to tell you the difference between pages and groups. Okay, so that way you can decide which is the better one for your situation. So for example, a lot of organizations will have pages. So you might set up a class page with your students, for example, or a page for your institute. Now, pages are less active than groups. There are ways you can be active. You can host discussions. You can host updates. You can post updates. You can have people post updates on there as well, those who like the page. But they're more open. Pages tend to be more open. Anybody can join. And these are more for businesses because the idea behind the page is that you're trying to show, for example, this would be really good if you have an institute. So you might find different pages like Tesol Institute. But if you, for example, have a Tesol group, then you might make that an actual group page instead of just a page. If you're going to have many different administrators, then that's really good for pages. Pages, in order to get people to participate, yes, exactly, Nora, it's more like an advertisement because it doesn't have as much options of participating from people. So I think for a school, then this may be a good thing because for school, you just want to get it out there, or maybe you want to get your blog out there, then you might have a page for it. I have a page, and I'll show it to you later. It's the 30 Goals Challenge, and it's a book, and it's something that I had before the Facebook groups came out, but I have to constantly post things. I have to suggest pages. I have to create notes. I have to create events. I have to post questions. I have to do a lot of work to get the people to participate. But it is very open and public, so anybody can go in and they can join and they can see the page. So I'm going to show you some great pages out there. But first of all, let's look at a discussion. So let's say you do have a discussion, okay? So this is one of the great ways to be able to get your page active. Now, there's a few things, okay? So if this is an advertisement and you're trying to get people to go to your own website and not your Facebook page, then maybe a discussion isn't always the best. And this is the reason why I say that, is because a discussion is not going to post your link to your website on the discussion. The only way it's going to do that is at the end of the discussion, you actually post links. And you can do that within a discussion. And that's what I suggest to people. I suggest that every time that you participate inside a discussion, that you add your own links, like maybe a link to your blog, sort of like a signature. So, for example, when I participate in discussion, you might say my name, Shelly Terrell, but then you'll see teacherybootcamp.com or something that I want people to be able to contact me with. You might see my email or something, a way for other people to contact you in case they like what you're sharing or your resources. So I think it's really important that you do that. Oh, okay, that's interesting, Nora. And so, but you can post different discussions. Often the way that I get people to post discussions is that I actually go onto Twitter and I'll ask people, I say, hey, you're really great at blogging. I really like what you share on blogging. Would you mind hosting a discussion about blogging? And then that person will be in charge. This is a great way if you have students and you do have a page with them, get each of them to rotate carrying a discussion and something that they can be an expert in, something that they can continue to moderate even themselves. Or you can host class debates this way as well if you're doing this with your students. So I'm going to show you some pages that I recommend for teaching English that have lots of resources and they have lots of members. So let's say that you have a blog post and you're trying to get a lot of traffic to your post. Well, Facebook is a great way to do that. Like I said, there's 700 million people on Facebook. So there's 700 million people. You have potential for a big audience. But when you post it in your own profile, sometimes people get very picky about that. People might get upset because they might think that you're doing self-promotion or something. So there are certain websites that you can go to, certain pages on Facebook, and they're okay with you sharing. One of my favorite is run by Ann Foreman, and she's wonderful, and she really encourages people to share on the Teaching English British Council website, well, Facebook page. And Anne is so great. She'll even post blog posts herself. But there are over 24,000 members that are English teachers that are part of this website. So it makes a lot of sense that if you're an English language teacher, then you would post your blog post or your resource or your wiki on here. The reason is because this is an audience of 24,000 people that will potentially go visit your post or your resource or will be able to use it. So, and they do encourage many of the teachers, they encourage you to post it, and it makes it more active that way. People will often, I post, you can see right there, that's me, and I just posted our webinar today, so this is pretty current. In fact, I'm gonna put it up so that way you can see it. Okay, so let me see if I can make it a little bit. And then you can see where I actually posted today's webinar. How many of you are actually members of the Teach English site? So you can see me right there. It shows the link that I posted. And then it also shows the time and date. And it also shows that people liked it. So I'm really excited about that. Now, one of the great things about the pages, if you're an administrator, if you click this link right here where it says about an hour ago, then this will actually take you to the link of that specific post. So, for example, if you're sharing on Twitter and you only want to share that post, but it's all the way down the page, well, all you have to do is click that, and it'll give you the specific link to your status, to this actual link. And then you can share it on Twitter. Another great thing is if you're an administrator, if you look where this green arrow is, then usually it'll tell you how many people viewed that particular status update. So usually when I'm moderating a page, it'll tell me, it'll say, oh, well, 100 people saw it, or 500 or 1,000 if I posted something really good. And doing that is really great, because then you're really able to see what kind of information people like. Another great group is Chuck Sandy and Curtis Kelly page. Chuck Sandy is a great English language teaching author, and he really encourages a lot of interaction on the page. They have over 8,000 English language teachers a part of that. And Chuck does something really great. He does status updates. But they ask a lot of questions to the group. They really get a lot of participation on this page. So if you go in the search like I showed you earlier, then you can go to Chuck Sandy and Curtis Kelly, and you can become part of this very active group. Now, these two groups that I showed you, I think, are highly successful. So if you want to make your own group, then I would suggest looking at what they do, even if you don't join them, and to model it. See how they get people to participate. See what kind of things that they do to be able to get people to come on and be part of the group. I think, when you first start a Facebook group, it could be very difficult to get people to join and post things. One of the reasons why is because a lot of people don't realize that they can post things. Some pages don't want you to post anything. For example, a company page, So I think at the beginning, sometimes it's good if you tell your friends right away, hey, it's okay if you post something. Ann Foreman, who runs the Teaching English site, is very good about that. She says she tags people and she lets them know, hey, I just posted your blog. She'll send a private message. So that's one way that you can go ahead and you can increase people being interactive, is to go ahead and message them privately and also tag them on the page. Now, they change things with the pages, so you can only tag people who actually like the page. So one thing that I know that Chuck Sandy and Ann Foreman both do is that they send private messages that say, hey, I shared your blog post today on the Teach English side or the Chuck Sandy side, and just wanted to let you know it was a great post. So that's something that you can do too to encourage participation. Another great one with over 33,000 members is the Facebook.com Tesol Association page. Now on this one, the reason why I have this one third, it is a bit of a ranking. And the reason why I have this one as a rank, sort of as a third, is because not as many people participate on this. There's tons of members, but they don't seem to post as much as on the other pages. So I think the other pages, the communities are a bit stronger. But you do find a lot of resources on here, and you are able to post here to get a wider audience and to get some resources for teaching English. And then, of course, I had to add my own very website, which is the 30 Goals Challenge, and it is for educators. And you'll find 30 different goals. You'll find a free ebook. And one of the things that I do is I posted all the challenges on the notes page. Now, when you do, how many of you have created notes on your pages? How many of you actually use the notes section? Can you write what you use the notes section for? Now, I've seen notes used as blog posts. Does anybody use those as blog posts? Okay, so Lou says she's never used it. Okay. I post announcements. So what do you use the notes section for? I post announcements. I did post for the 30 goals, but one of the things I found out afterwards is that Facebook has this clause that says they basically own the information that you have on the notes. So now I just use it for announcements because if you add your post there, then not that they would come to me and say, oh, by the way, we have copyright over that. But I used to repost blog posts on there because I thought, okay, well, this way a wider audience gets to see it. And it's true, a wider audience did get to see it. But one of the things I found out quickly was that they have this clause that says that they own the copyright. So that's one thing you have to be careful of. So now let's look at groups. Groups is a recent thing of Facebook. I believe it came in last year maybe. And groups is actually very good to use with students. This is what I would recommend for a class site. And this is some of the reasons why. Some of the differences are, first of all, when you have a group, you can add people. So you can actually add all your students on there. You can create documents together like a Microsoft Word document. Oh, that's a good one, Faisal. Faisal says that he uses it sometimes to announce for conferences. Yeah, that's really good. You can do it with the events, but sometimes I find that doing a blog post that actually gives more details about, doing a notes will give more details about the conference and stuff. Or you can do like a little blurb of what you're going to talk about in the conference. But groups, you can do a group chat where it's only the people of the group. And everybody gets a group email. You actually can use the group. When you do a group, at the very top, I'll show you in a little bit, the groups. You get an email address that everybody can have. You can make, there's 3 different privacy controls. So when you have a group, you can decide to make it public, where it's kind of open for everybody. You can make it a closed group where only the members can see it. And then you can also have the groups that will be completely open. And if it's a completely open group, then I don't believe you get an actual group email. But there is one email address for the entire group, and it makes it easy to post things even through text message and stuff. You can put questions. You can have a question. You can do polls. You can create events. You can do updates once again. But some of the greatest features are all the members of that group can be the only ones to actually see the stuff in the group. So that's why it makes it really good for students. And also because you can do a group chat which is really great for English language students, to have a closed place if you want to do a once-a-time weekly chat. And then the documents, you can do a doc together that's a collaborative doc, like a Word document. So there are 3 types, like I said, of group privacy controls. You have the secret one, and then you have the closed one and the open one. The secret one means that only the members of the group, that means you usually invite the members of the group. The closed one means that, yes, they can see the group. It will come out in searches, so if you search for the group. But it means that they have to request membership. And open means everybody can see it. So these are some of the groups that I recommend for English language teachers. There's EltChat. We decided to make this a group instead of having it as an actual page. And so we have about 250 of the members already on there. You can go online to chat with any of the group members. You can see where it has created doc. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to point to those. Oops. So you can add friends to the group. You can go online create a document, create an event. All of this is on the right side. View photos, you can edit the group, you can even decide to leave the group. Now, it's really important to see where it says leave the group. The reason why is because people can add you to the group. They don't even have to ask your permission. So that's one of the things that people got really upset about at the beginning of the groups, is that anybody could kind of just add you to it. You can share videos. Like if you have a class video that you want to share with students, you can share a blog, a link or a post or a photo. So these are all great things that you can use with students as well. And because it's closed off, then it really makes it a great thing for students. And then at the very top, I'm going to blow this up a little bit. You can see at the very top, can everyone see where it says the email address? Now this is an open group. It tells you what it is, an open group, and it shows you eltchat@groups.facebook.com. So that's where you'll find the group email. So if you want to send something to the group. Okay, so here's another one that I really like too for English language teachers, and this one is EU educators. So if the EU educators, these are European Union educators, but anybody can do that. Oops, okay, where did my document go there? Okay, let me put that back up, sorry. Okay, so you can see that. And this one's a really good one. They encourage a lot of sharing. You can share your posts. There's over 856 members in it. So this is a really good group to be a part of. Everybody's very active, and everybody is really, really, because of groups, when you have a group and you post something to the group, it's more likely that you're going to get a response. So if you want something like a question or something, then it's really great to post in a group, preferably than a page, because more people tend to participate and listen and really look at the groups. There's the EltChat Turkey one. That one's a really good group. You don't have to be in Turkey to be part of the group. As you can see, Russell Stannard posts there. Nick Peachy often posts there. So a lot of different people will post there. There are other ones. For example, I just got added to the EduMOOC group. There's also another one called the e-learning group. So basically, if you type in any subject, you're going to be able to find a group related to that subject. So we're coming towards the end, and I'm more than welcome you to go ahead and share your profiles. So if you have a customized URL for your profile, that would be really great. You can share that. Or if you just want to copy and paste your profile, your Facebook profile, that's fine. Now, if you want to copy and paste your group or an open group or Facebook page that you have, you're more than welcome to share it in the chat box. Or if you want to talk about ways that you get your group active, or if you have any questions, now would be the time. Now remember, I like to show this quote. I showed it last week, and I like it quite a lot. Ruth Cohenson, who's part of the EltChat group, and yes, there is an EltChat page, not a group, but there's actually an EltChat Facebook page if you look up EltChat. So, and she says the power we have through networking is humbling, frightening, and exciting. Use it well. So I think this is really, really important for us to remember when we're using Facebook, because if we decide to use it for education purposes, then we have to understand that, especially in Facebook, there are certain norms. And I think with some of us, we might forget. One of the things that we need to remember is that we're all educators as well. So when you go to a conference and stuff, I think if you don't want to be tagged in pictures, I recently went to the ISTE conference, and people would say at the beginning, please do not tag me in a picture. Or please, you know, if somebody tags me in something, then I'll tell them in a private message, I'll say, please do not tag me in this, or please do not tag me in your advertisements. And that's another thing, is if you're going to tag people, then if it's something that promotes them, yes. But I think sometimes we have to ask other educators, hey, would you mind if I added you to my group? Would you mind if I tagged you in this picture? Especially if they have a drink or something like that. So I think with Facebook that it's really important that we kind of start being more courteous. Now, there are other things you can do in Facebook, too, with students. You can have them play games. You have to watch out because the information that goes in these games and these other applications like quiz applications or Farmville or Mafia or even Scrabble, they get access to your personal information. So when you're using these kind of tools with students, that's just something to remember, and that's something that you probably want to tell parents about and ask parents if it's okay, because these are things that Facebook does. Thanks, Sue, for sharing your Facebook page, which is the facebook.com ESOL courses. So these are the things that I think, but you know, you can always tell me yourself. These are places you can find me. You can find me in the Puggy, and yes, the Puggy has his own Facebook page, thanks to Joel Josephson, who created one for Roscoe, and his Facebook page, if you like pugs, it has nothing to do with ELT, but is facebook.com Roscoe the pug. So, and basically Roscoe shares different pictures all day and pug clothes and pug videos or dog videos. So that's you can find them there. But there are lots of great people to find on Facebook. One of the good reasons I like Facebook is because a lot of authors, ELT authors, such as Lindsay Clanfield, there's Andrew Wright, there's Scott Thornberry. A lot of these are on Facebook. That's a good question. Okay, so Lou has asked a very good question. She has asked, are all of these things in one account, or do you have several accounts to organize personal plus professional? I am trying now to use the categories to categorize friends and things like that. And one of the reasons why is because I had 2 accounts. But one thing is, it's illegal to have more than 1 account on Facebook. If Facebook finds out that you have more than 1 account, they will erase them. And then everything that you set up will go away. So that's something you have to be careful about. But the other one was also because the other reason why I did that is because I couldn't keep up with both, to be honest. So then I just added everybody into 1 account. And now I just figure that if I don't want it out there, then I won't put it out there. And I think sometimes we might get a little too comfortable, but some things we can have. I think Google Circles is really good for that, to where if you want to share certain pictures or things like that or announcements, then just have it in a circle instead. I think a circle is much, much better for that. So if you can get your family to do the circles, then I think that would be better. And Duma asked earlier, is Duma here? Which one? Is he still here? Oh, I think he left. But he had Lucian. He had asked earlier if what was better, Google Plus or Google Groups. Right now, I'm going to say Google Groups. And the only reason why, even though I love the Hangout feature with Google, Facebook, with Google Plus, is because the thing with Google Plus is you can't share your circles. So you can't really collaborate well in a circle. Nobody else knows that they're in that circle unless you tell them. So it really doesn't help with collaboration as much. But so when they start having it to where you can share circles or kind of make it like where it's a closed group, like a Facebook group, then I think it will be much, much better. But it still needs some time. Yes, Ola. Anyone have any questions? You can raise your hand. Or actually, I'm giving you microphone rights, so you're more than welcome to come. up on here. Okay, so the settings, that's very, very important. So that's what we're going to look at right now. I'm going to stop sharing this. You have the different Facebook, and at the bit.ly address, it actually shows you different types of places that you can, actually, I'll go to that website right now because that will show you the actual settings and things like that in another session, okay? Then we'll do another Facebook session, because when you go to settings, you really have to understand them, how to make things private, what has your information, and that's something that Facebook is really tricky about, is that even when you become an administrator of a page, when you sign an application, even if it's like something like a poking application, like when your friends give you flowers, and in order to receive the flowers, you have to go and you have to include your information. All of this, it changes the settings. So just know that whenever you join something, whenever you allow something on Facebook, it completely changes the settings, and you have to go back and you have to change it. Okay, so Faisal, I'll let you talk. You have the mic. Very true.
Do you hear me?
We
Hello?
hear you.
Hello? Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, thanks a lot. I think that's great to use Facebook on, I mean, in teaching. But you know that sometimes, as I hear that it is not allowed in some countries, and sometimes it is allowed in other countries, but under certain restrictions. For example, my center, the place that I were teaching, that I cannot use Facebook because it's not allowed by the Ministry of Education. Well, of course, other thing that we can get from Facebook, it's not the way that to find right friends on Facebook, but not the way that we can play games or whatever. But actually, we can use Facebook in teaching, and sometimes the teacher uh, himself or herself can make a group for the students that in a lab, on the computer lab, and they can discuss the assignments or kind of homework, or they can do something that help in teaching and learning English. um, well, actually, even how to create groups, I have been taught this such thing while I was in USA, joining the University of Maryland. Well, of course, yeah, we can make create certain groups. We can make our students only. We can allow our students only to be members of the groups, and we can, I told you before, that we can discuss things related to teaching, or sometimes reading text, or doing certain activities, I mean extra activities, or outside the school itself. Um, as I told you, that sometimes the Facebook now, I think in the Arab world, it is considered as a source of rebellions against the governments, and against the uh, the corruptions itself inside the countries that we live here in the Arab world. This is why sometimes they block the Facebook, because young people, they can create groups, and they can make something against the government itself. This is why it is considered as a source of rebellion, and this is why it is blocked here, and sometimes it is not allowed. We are not allowed to use it in inside our schools, public schools. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Faisal, for that information. I think, yeah, you bring up a lot of good points about the that some schools and education ministries won't allow it. But I think it's really important that we begin to use it with students. It's the most used. In fact, they said that if Facebook was a country, it would be one of the largest countries in the world. There's 700 million users on Facebook, almost a billion soon, and the students already use it, and a lot of them don't use it very well. I get very worried when I see some of my students' Facebook pages because they don't know anything about what pictures to post, digital citizenship, their privacy, yet they use it every day. They love using Facebook, so I think it's really important that schools begin to start using it for education purposes and showing kids how to use it. Plus, it's a communication tool. It's a great communication tool. So like you said, Faisal, it's really great to use with students, especially the groups feature. I think the groups are the way to go when you do use it with students. So thank you so much for coming. You can email me, and yes, I will. I know I keep saying this, but yes, I will get, if you email me at ShellyTurtle.com, I will get those certificates to you. Thank you so much, and I will see you next weekend. Have a great weekend. Next